And that's another one I teased Terry on. Two people. I thought it was a cutesy song again, and I could see people going, oh, I really like that song.
Tina Turner, the unstoppable queen of rock and roll, left this world 2 years ago, but her voice, her energy, and her story still echo in the hearts of millions. Her passing at the age of 83 in her Switzerland home marked the end of an era, but it also left behind deep, unspoken pain for the man who stood by her side through her final years, her husband, Erwin Bach. For months after her death, Erwin remained silent. No interviews, no statements, just a quiet life in their lakeside mansion, surrounded by memories of a woman whose fire never faded. Many wondered what really happened during Tina's final days. Was she at peace? Did she ever find freedom from the pain that haunted her for so long? Now, 2 years later, Erwin Bach has finally spoken. In an emotional and rare confession, he has shared intimate details about their life together, her last moments, the struggles she faced behind closed doors, and the legacy she left behind not just as a performer, but as a woman who refused to be broken. His words reveal a side of Tina Turner few ever saw, a woman of resilience, humor, and love, but also unburdened by the quiet battles that came after fame. What Erwin revealed has left fans across the world in tears, and it changes everything we thought we knew about Tina Turner's final years. 2 years have passed since the world lost Tina Turner, the woman whose thunderous voice, unbreakable spirit, and electrifying stage presence defined generations. She was more than a performer. She was a symbol of resilience, a fighter who turned her pain into power, and a survivor who showed the world that strength could be born from suffering. When she passed away at 83, inside her quiet home on the shores of Lake Zurich in Switzerland, millions mourned the loss of a true legend. But for one man, the loss was far more personal: her husband, Erwin Bach. For nearly 3 decades, Erwin had been Tina's anchor. Their love story began in the mid-1980s when Tina met the then music executive at a German airport. She later said she felt an instant connection, describing it as love at first sight. After decades of heartbreak and abuse from her previous marriage, Erwin represented something different: peace, safety, and unconditional love. The two shared a bond so deep that it went beyond fame, fortune, or age. And when Tina's health began to decline, it was Erwin who stayed by her side through every storm. After her passing in May 2023, Erwin withdrew from the public eye. Fans wondered how he was coping, but he remained silent, keeping his grief private. Reporters reached out, but there were no statements, just a man quietly mourning the woman who had been the center of his world. For 2 years, that silence spoke volumes, and then, almost unexpectedly, Erwin decided to speak. In a recent interview from his home in Küsnacht, his voice trembled as he shared memories of their final days together. He revealed that Tina had known the end was near and had prepared for it with remarkable grace. She didn't want fear or sadness around her, he said softly. She told me, "I've had a beautiful life. I'm ready to go." Tina had battled severe health issues in her final years: high blood pressure, kidney failure, and even intestinal cancer. But she never let the pain define her. Instead, she focused on gratitude. She often sat by the lake, listening to the water, finding peace in the quiet moments that fame had once stolen from her. Erwin recalled her strength, even in weakness. She was the same Tina I met decades ago, strong, funny, and stubborn. Even on her hardest days, she'd find something to laugh about. He said she never wanted pity. She hated people feeling sorry for her. She told me, "Don't let them remember me sick. Let them remember me shining." Those words hit him deeply, and for months after her passing, Erwin found it impossible to talk about her. Their home still felt like hers, her clothes neatly folded, her favorite books stacked by the window, her laughter still echoing in the halls. But as time passed, he realized that sharing her story wasn't about reliving the pain. It was about honoring her legacy. When asked what he missed the most, Erwin didn't hesitate. "Her presence," he said quietly. She had this energy. You could feel her enter a room even before she spoke. Now it's just silence. He also revealed something few fans knew: how deeply Tina cherished her fans in her final days. Even when she could no longer perform, She kept up with messages and tributes online. She'd read fan letters and smile, Irwin said. She was amazed that after all these years, people still loved her that much. As he spoke, tears filled his eyes, but there was peace too. Irwin's love for Tina Turner wasn't defined by her fame or her music. It was about two souls who found each other against all odds. And even now, he says, she's still here. I feel her every day. Tina Turner's story didn't end with her passing. It lives on in the love she left behind, in the man who still carries her memory, and in the millions who continue to sing her songs with the same fire she gave to the world. After decades of performing for millions, Tina Turner's final years were spent far from the spotlight, living a peaceful, private life with the man she called her soulmate. But behind the quiet smiles and serene lake views was a story of courage, endurance, and love that ran deeper than anyone imagined. By the mid-2010s, Tina's health had begun to deteriorate rapidly. Years of battling high blood pressure had taken a severe toll on her kidneys, and in 2016, doctors diagnosed her with intestinal cancer. The news devastated her. For someone who had fought her entire life to find peace, another battle seemed unbearably cruel. But Tina, being Tina, faced it head-on, with her trademark strength and unshakable will. She once said in her autobiography, "I've had a life full of pain and struggle, but I never let it break me." You can't. You have to keep moving forward. Those words would become her guiding light during her darkest days. Her husband, Erwin Bach, became her constant caretaker. He left his work behind to focus entirely on Tina's recovery. "I couldn't imagine a world without her," he confessed in his rare interview. "Every day, I prayed for her strength." Tina underwent surgery to remove the cancer, but her kidneys continued to fail. Doctors told her she would eventually need a transplant. Faced with this grim reality, Tina even considered assisted dying, a practice legal in Switzerland. But when she mentioned it to Erwin, his reaction changed everything. Without hesitation, he offered her one of his kidneys. It was a gesture that stunned even Tina. She couldn't believe the man she loved was willing to make such a sacrifice. He said, "You're my family. I want to do this for you." In April 2017, Erwin donated one of his kidneys to save her life. The transplant was successful, though the recovery was long and difficult. Tina later called Erwin's act the ultimate gift of love. In her memoir, "My Love Story," she wrote, "I'm alive today because of him. He never complained, never hesitated. He simply said, 'We're in this together.' Their bond only deepened after that. They spent most of their days in their beautiful Swiss villa, a haven surrounded by water and mountains. Friends described it as a place filled with music, laughter, and love." Tina often said that it was the home she had always dreamed of, a place where she finally felt safe. But even with the transplant, her health continued to decline. She grew weaker over the years, relying on Erwin for nearly everything. Yet she remained fiercely independent in spirit. She still cooked small meals when she could, tended to her garden, and listened to her old records. She loved revisiting her early songs, Erwin recalled, not out of nostalgia, but because they reminded her of how far she'd come. Those who visited her in her final years described her as glowing, not in appearance, but in peace. She had endured so much pain in her life, an abusive marriage to Ike Turner, financial struggles, and constant reinvention, but she had finally reached a place of stillness. "She told me she had no regrets," Erwin said. "She had lived the life she wanted." By 2023, Tina's body had grown too frail to keep fighting. But she never let fear take over. Instead, she spent her final weeks surrounded by beauty, fresh flowers, soft music, and the gentle rhythm of the lake outside her window. "She wanted love, not sadness," Erwin shared. "She made me promise not to let the house turn into a place of mourning." In her final conversation with him, Tina reportedly whispered, "I'm ready. Thank you for giving me a beautiful life." Those were the last words Erwin heard from her before she slipped away peacefully in her sleep. When news of her passing broke on May 24, 2023, the world wept. But for Erwin, the silence that followed was unbearable. The house felt empty, he said softly. For 37 years she was my everything. And suddenly she was gone. Yet even in grief, Irwin holds onto her memory with gratitude. She didn't just survive life, she conquered it, he said. Every day, I remind myself to live the way she did, with courage, grace, and love. In the 2 years since Tina Turner's passing, the world has continued to feel her absence, but also her presence, through the music, stories, and spirit she left behind. For Erwin Bach, her husband of nearly 4 decades, life after Tina has been both painful and profoundly reflective. When he finally decided to break his silence publicly, his words were not about sorrow, but about celebration, a tribute to the woman who taught him the true meaning of strength and love. Erwin began by saying, "People always saw Tina as a superstar. But at home, she was simply Tina, funny, thoughtful, and endlessly curious about life." He smiled softly as he described her habit of waking up early to watch the sunrise from their lakeside home in Küsnacht, Switzerland. She said the light over the lake reminded her that every day is a new beginning, no matter how hard yesterday was. It was this optimism that defined Tina's later years. After decades of battling trauma, betrayal, and exhaustion, she finally built a world on her own terms. She often told friends that her life had come full circle, from pain to peace. And for Erwin, that peace is what he now protects. Since her passing, Erwin has kept their villa just as she left it. Her favorite books still line the shelves, her gold records still hang in the hallway, and the piano in the living room remains untouched. "I can't bring myself to move anything," he admitted. "When I walk through the house, I still feel her here." But Erwin also knows that Tina wouldn't want him to live in sadness. She was always forward-looking, always insisting that life was meant to be lived with joy. She'd tell me, "Don't sit around missing me. Go out, see the world, and keep dancing." That's how she was. She never wanted pity, and so Erwin has honored that wish by continuing her legacy. He's worked closely with her estate to ensure that her story is told truthfully and that her music remains alive for future generations. He helped oversee the re-release of her autobiography, My Love Story, and supported new remastered editions of her greatest hits, including The Best Proud Mary and What's Love Got to Do With It. In interviews, Erwin has spoken about how deeply Tina valued authenticity. She believed that the truth, no matter how painful, was the only way to heal, he said. That belief was shaped by her brutal early years with Ike Turner, whose abuse nearly destroyed her spirit. Yet she emerged stronger, reinventing herself in her 40s when most artists were told their time had passed. She never accepted limits, Erwin said proudly. Tina didn't care about age or expectations. She just kept moving forward. After escaping her abusive marriage, she rebuilt everything from scratch: her career, her finances, and her sense of self. Her comeback album Private Dancer sold millions worldwide, earning her multiple Grammys and sealing her place as one of the most influential women in music history. But for Tina, success was never just about fame. In her later years, she found fulfillment in quiet moments, reading, gardening, and hosting close friends. She'd sit on the balcony for hours watching the water, Erwin recalled. She said that was her heaven on earth. When asked what he misses most, Erwin's voice trembled slightly. Her laughter, he said. She had the most contagious laugh. Even on hard days, she'd find something to smile about. He shared that Tina left behind handwritten notes throughout their home, little reminders of her spirit. One note, tucked inside her favorite novel, reads, "Thank you for my beautiful life." Erwin, another taped to the refrigerator, says simply, "Keep dancing." Those small gestures continue to guide him every day. "I talk to her sometimes," he admitted. "Not in sadness, but in gratitude. Because how many people get to love someone like that?" As fans around the world continue to celebrate Tina Turner's legacy, Erwin hopes people remember her not just as a performer, but as a survivor who transformed pain into art. "She showed us that it's never too late to start over," he said. That's the message she wanted to leave behind, and it's one I'll carry for the rest of my life. 2 years after her passing, Tina Turner's influence continues to radiate across generations, genres, and continents. The woman once known as the Queen of Rock and Roll is no longer here physically, but her voice, energy, and message of resilience still echo through millions of hearts. What's remarkable is how deeply her story continues to inspire, not just her fans, but the artists who followed in her footsteps. After her death in 2023, tributes poured in from every corner of the world. Beyoncé called her the embodiment of power and grace. Mick Jagger, who once shared a stage with her during the Rolling Stones tours, said, "She taught me how to own the stage." Even contemporary artists like Lizzo and Adele praised her as a trailblazer who opened doors for women to be both fierce and feminine. But beyond the spotlight, Tina Turner's real legacy lies in her courage to rebuild. She proved that no matter how broken life becomes, it's never too late to start again. From surviving domestic abuse to reinventing herself at an age when most stars fade away, Tina's story remains one of the most powerful comebacks in music history. When Erwin Bach speaks about her now, it's with a tone that blends deep sorrow with awe. "She had this fire in her," he said softly in his most recent interview. "Even when her body was weak, her spirit burned bright. She lived every day as if it were a gift." In her final years, Tina made sure her story would not be lost. She worked closely on the award-winning stage musical, Tina, the Tina Turner musical, ensuring every scene reflected truth rather than glamour. She wanted people to see her as human, flawed, afraid at times, but endlessly determined. She wanted to show the world that you can be knocked down 100 times and still rise with dignity, Erwin explained. Even today, the musical continues to play to sold-out audiences, carrying her legacy of empowerment and perseverance. Young girls who never saw her live are discovering her story and finding strength in it. "She was proof that you could take control of your destiny," said Adrienne Warren, the actress who portrayed her on Broadway. That's what makes her story eternal. But while the world celebrates her, Erwin still grieves quietly. Their home in Switzerland remains his sanctuary, a place filled with the warmth she created. "Every corner holds a memory," he shared. "Sometimes I play her records just to hear her voice fill the rooms again." Among her belongings, he keeps one item closest to him, a small locket containing a photo of them together and a handwritten note from Tina that says, "Forever starts here." It was a gift she gave him on their wedding day in 2013, after nearly 27 years together. "She believed in soulmates," Erwin said, and I believe she was right. Though her passing left a void, Erwin says Tina wouldn't have wanted people to dwell on sadness. "She believed death wasn't an ending. It was a transformation," he recalled. "She told me that as long as her music played and people remembered her with love, she would never truly be gone." Indeed, her music continues to bring people together. From the electrifying Proud Mary to the timeless Simply the Best, her songs have become anthems of survival, independence, and joy. "Every time I hear her voice," Erwin said, "I feel her strength all over again." And perhaps that's the greatest testament to Tina Turner's life, her ability to turn suffering into something beautiful, to turn loss into light. She may have left this world, but her story is one of triumph, love, and the unbreakable will to live freely. As Erwin looks out over the lake that once reflected their shared sunsets, he says he finds peace in knowing Tina finally has hers. She always said she wanted to leave this world the way she lived, on her own terms, in her own home, surrounded by love. And she did. Then with a quiet smile he adds, "Tina didn't just survive life, she mastered it. And that's how I'll always remember her."